What's up and welcome to another Mograph Mocast. I'm Dave.
I'm Matt, and joining us today, our good friend, Gurnge.
Hey, everybody.
Billy Chitkin.
And Mograph is a supplement to our site, mograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other Mograph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects, plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. You can email us info@mograph.com. Let us know what you think about the show. Send us your questions, concerns, queries, grievances. We love to hear from you. We love to get show topics from you, especially if you're new and we haven't talked to you before. Send us a show topic. It doesn't matter if you think maybe we've talked about it before or whatnot. Sometimes we do revisit topics. Things change over the years and things like that. And so we'd love to hear it. If it's noob, if it's expert level, doesn't matter what it is. Come join in the discussion. You are the producer.
Means we have less work to do if you're the producer.
Right. Just do it all for us, please.
Yes.
Come on. Do it for the exposure.
Just do it. Please. Just do it.
Please.
Oh.
So this week we got a little bit of wrap up. It has been a crazy month, and this is basically the third or fourth day this month that I've actually been home.
This is day 8 of October. Out of the 21 days of October, I have been home 8 of them.
The good news is October is my favorite month, and I love fall October weather. And so in our travels, there has been much October weather.
Yes.
Including
nice.
Here. Well, if you discount the tornadoes last
other
night,
than the tornadoes last night.
Right. Yeah, but we're safe. And I saw one coming right for you last night. There were storms in New York, there were storms in Dallas. It was really hard to get back, and I think our plane landed I think there were only 2 other planes that landed after us. I could literally see that storm that caused all the tornadoes out my window as we were landing, and as soon as we got there, it just went crazy. So we lucked out.
You're lucky you didn't go into Love Field because there was a tornado right there.
Well, yeah, but it hit that area even later, so it would have been fine. It was just, but safe here. Weather's just completely back to normal. Fall weather again. That's how Texas is, I guess.
That's good. I've got a potentially dumb question, but I'm curious now. If you're in the air in an airplane and then there's tornadoes, what's the protocol there? Because from the Midwest, it's not a thing I think about.
They would never be near a tornado.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
They reroute around. They can see the weather coming. They'll make you U-turn before you'll go into a storm like that.
Right. Yeah. No, I figured they wouldn't drive you into the tornado itself, but just if there's tornadoes in the area of the airport.
Screw it. We're going for it.
Yeah. Well, with that storm in particular, I was watching online and you could see those storms starting to build. Because I already knew it was going to be a photo finish, and I'm looking at the map and I'm like, you could see the storm one county away, just starting to touch the airport, and you could see that they were just rerouting planes all around. But as soon as we landed, I think lightning struck within 5 miles, which is basically when they shut down. But you could see the cloud to cloud lightning. It was insane. But yeah, I was watching it's that live radar tracking site, which is super cool, and you can see all the planes in the sky in real time. So you can pick any of them and look, and you could see how the planes were routing around. It's pretty fun, pretty nerdy, but pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, it's not nerve-wracking at all when, I've got my wife who loves to freak out about weather, freaking out about weather, and then I've got Dave who likes to freak out about weather, texting me saying, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" Yeah, we're fine. I
don't really freak out about weather. I just love weather, and I love weather maps, and I love watching. Even if the weather's not around me, I like to look and check out the different types of radar and radial velocity and all of that stuff. Dude, if there's a tornado coming, I will sometimes stick my head out the window and go check it out.
Oh yeah, I spent a lot of my time outside yesterday just watching the clouds. Yeah. I mean, the lightning was amazing. It was so pretty.
Yeah.
The thing is, you're going to have plenty of warning to get inside before a tornado comes.
Right.
Right.
Especially if you're watching those live radar, where it is. It's not on top of you,
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I would have done this if I would have been home yesterday. If you have those pop-up storms and in your area, there's no storm yet, you could throw a drone up there and try and get some fun lightning shots and stuff. I've done that before.
Get struck by lightning.
Well, that's the thing. It's not where you are. Like, it's 10 miles away. So if you pop the drone up, there's nothing going on. You could get a cool shot and then bring it down before the wind blows it away.
Yeah.
But
is this going to usher in a new type of storm chasing?
Oh yeah.
No, I think they did that in the movie Twister,
chasing.
Didn't they?
Yeah, but drones weren't like a thing.
The little tiny drones.
Those were more of like,
were those
like
aluminum foil?
Or whatever,
were those like the pop can things?
Yeah.
But they weren't like drones.
Yeah, they were like sensors.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That's a good idea, though. I wonder if you could get like mini drones and fly them into tornadoes to get data. I'm going to start a new thing.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to get into that and biohacking. I've been watching all the online videos and the YouTube and the Netflix videos on CRISPR and all of that. Looks super interesting.
Yeah, CRISPR's cool.
I went down a rabbit hole of decoding the Zodiac Killer cipher last night.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, really?
There's one of the ciphers that was never solved. And I watched like 3 hours of stuff last night, like while I was modeling.
Like, screw it. It's never been solved. I've got a night. I'll figure it out.
Not even in the slightest, but it's interesting to
Hold
think
my
about.
Red Bull.
Yeah. Got it right here.
There you
go.
I
got an iPad Pro yesterday because I saw all the people at Camp Mograph drawing, on their iPad Pros, and I got super jealous. So downloaded Procreate and downloaded this one called Putty 3D. It's kind of like a sculpting, program. It's kind of neat. I wish it had I wish it had some better stuff like pull and grab and stuff like that, but it's mostly just, build up and cut down and smooth,
You're like, I wish it had all these features. Oh, well, I'll just go back to cinema. Right?
Yeah.
And you just get back on your computer.
Nah.
Yeah.
Or ZBrush.
It's nice to be able to just like sit down and draw, I'm terrible at it, but I don't know.
And the new pencil they have is nice, and I like that it has that one flat edge, so it feels more like a pencil.
Yeah, that is.
And the
nice.
matte finish, and
yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about the week wrap up. The Beeple party was last. I don't even know when it was. Like, we did 2 shows. We did them out of order.
I think it was the 11th.
Left, and it was last Friday.
10 days ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was the
Friday
11th.
Before. Oh my gosh, what a blur!
Oh, okay. Cool.
Well, because you and me both flew in and flew out for that, right, Dave?
Oh yeah, that's right, man. I saw you for like 2 seconds there. It was such a short thing.
How many
because
people
I was
were
leaving
at
that
party?
night.
It was a good couple hundred. I would say probably. Well, so there was like these 3 big sort of like planetarium kind of like big tent sort of deals that had like a bunch of projected whatever artwork up in them. And then there was a good like outside sort of area, and I'd say the outside area probably had 200-300 people sort of coming in and out, like as people shuffled in and out of the tent, planetarium, dome, whatever you want to call them. I never actually wound up going into any of those, so I don't know like what kind of head count was present in each one at any one point in time, but I'm gonna guess it was probably in the ballpark.
You didn't check them out? You didn't check out the exhibits or anything?
No, I literally only stayed outside and talked to people because I'd make it like 3 feet and then run into somebody else that I wanted to have a conversation with, and then that conversation gets interrupted because you see somebody else walk by and you're like, yeah.
That's the thing about those events is like you don't even get enough time with everybody. You just you want to talk to someone for like an hour, and then it's like, oh my gosh, there's 10 more people I need to go, like at least say hi to, if anything. And but the tents were really great. Like there was a main tent that like had a lot of room in it just to walk around, and they were serving drinks and stuff in there. It had some really cool stuff on display, like 360 dome type stuff. But then the other ones, just like you, I was talking to people and I didn't get a chance to check them out until it was almost time to leave. And I was like, oh man, like I need to go look at these before I leave because they're really cool. There were all these art exhibits in one, like, and these weird like mask things with projections on them. And that was really cool. There was one right before I left that I poked my head in. and it was all like these cool beanbag chairs, and everybody was like laying in the beanbag chairs, and there are these trippy visuals like coming up. Like it was super awesome. I'm sure, you know, it's a good place to have a gummy and lay down on the on the beanbag chairs and just zone out. Yeah, they look super chill.
I'm pretty sure chill. I'm pretty sure that like venue or whatever that is like a permanent thing. I'm obviously not from LA, so I don't even remember the name of what it was, but I think one of my Lyft drivers while we were going there knew the place. Like once we got there, they were like, "Oh, I know this joint. Like I've been here for a party or whatever." And so it must be like a somewhat regular thing for people to, participate in a fun night of activities and look at the pretty colors and all that.
I think it's relatively new because when I looked it up on Google Maps, you didn't even see the domes there, but. It's called Wisdome. Wisdome.la is the address if you want to check it out. It is really cool, and I wish there would have been more time. Like I'm actually hoping like if he does it again, it would be at the same place. You know, because I would like to be able to do it again and spend more time. So
yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see it.
James Fried Pixel says it's a temporary space, like a pop-up, but longer running. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Cool.
So
kind of on that topic. This is like a really hard thing to segue into, but it's super duper important. We all know and love Mike. Great friend of the show, you know, super awesome, dedicated artist. But like, dude, I got to make a personal plea. Mike, if you're hearing this at some point, like the like reproductive organ aspect of like these dailies, like we've gone into like a different territory here. You know, it doesn't seem like all that long ago when we were just putting like Mark Zuckerberg's head onto like a spider body or whatever. But yeah, we've like fully gone into a different realm here where the topic of like reproductive health and like, you know, reproductive organs being this like mismatched like thing on like bodies and like in such like good detail, because obviously it's like crazy good octane rendering and whatever. It's just like it winds up being like so much more gross, and like I understand like the shock value aspect of it, and you want to just say like, oh, it's art, bro, like just deal with it. But like
I think sorry, go ahead. No, I was gonna say I think I understand where Mike's coming from. You know, like it is the shock value, you know, and you've got Trump, who is like this awful, terrible, womanizing whatever. And so I don't know. I think the idea is to maybe get his attention in a way, you know, and be like, you know, screw you. You're a terrible person, you know, but in doing that, I also understand the way it
the
can
other
come
side
off
of
to
it.
some people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean
and I feel like really I feel like the internet has ruined me from a like desensitization point of view.
Yeah, but
you know, where I'll scroll through a feed and I'll be like, oh, there's this thing, and I'm like, okay, like it doesn't even faze me, and that's kind of weird that like the internet has ruined my brain in that way that. You know, that I don't even stop and notice that kind of thing, and I should. Yeah,
and I know it's a super like hard thing to sort of try to navigate and to communicate, and like I obviously don't want to come off as like as a, you know, a cis white man. I don't want to like position myself as being like a talking head for like the transgender community or whatever. But these are issues that like seeing this stuff being depicted, like one. Like with Donald Trump, who is, whether you like him or not, his administration is very against a lot of like reproductive health issues. And then like the reproductive like organs, you know, playing this like Mr. Potato Head game, which is something that, you know, some people just have a hard time, you know, dealing with. You know, as a white dude, you know, I wake up and like I rarely have to really question who I think I am. And that's not everyone. That's not everybody's day to day. So that's in and of itself is a really difficult thing. And then the like, sort of like childbirth aspect with like all this stuff shooting out and like the caption being like this like big vulgar thing. You know, there's people who have difficulties with either fertility or you know, carrying a pregnancy all the way through term, you know, and there's just so many layers to this situation that are, I get why he wants to render this thing, and like he just thinks it's funny, but like, why is it funny? Right? If you dig down like deep enough, and this is probably deeper than I have any right to get on this podcast, but like,
I mean, he maybe unintentionally offending a lot of people, you know.
Oh yeah, no, totally, and like putting like the soft body, you know, dynamics of like, you know, breasts or whatever, like on like a male character. It's like if you say like, oh, this is funny, and then you get deep down and ask like, why is that funny? Like, right? Like, why is that funny? Well, and this is not my viewpoint. It's just like an unfortunate sociological like thing. Is it's like quote unquote demeaning to be a woman or to have like, you know, womanly body parts or whatever. And so like at the core of it, that's that's kind of the joke. Like, why do little kids on the playground, like, you know, like boys, like, you know, some kid gets knocked down and they call him a wussy for crying. Like deep down, like that's unfortunately that's that's what we're getting at here. And so yeah, I just wanted to kind of like throw that out there. You know, every once in a while, you know, a woman at like a, you know, on a podcast or at an event or whatever will take stage and voice these concerns, and then, you know, inevitably some white dude, you know, raises his hand in the crowd and says like, well, what can I do to like make things better? And it's like this, like calling one another out, like if somebody goes too far, or if collectively we think somebody has gone too far, like just, you know, we're not hashtag cancel people, you know, it's just like, hey dude, like let's just pump the brakes on this one thing. Can we just get back to like Mark Zuckerberg and like pig bodies or whatever? Because that's not like such a delicate issue.
I will take full blame for this one because I specifically asked him not to animate it.
Right, but you asked him not to animate.
But that's how you get somebody to do
don't
something.
Animate this one.
So.
And so, you know, I'll take blame for that one.
So, yeah.
No, I mean, it's you're right. And you know, a lot of I see, me personally, I just saw it as shock value, kind of gross. You know, yeah, it was gross. You know, that's why I specifically asked him not to animate it. You know, but then I start seeing the viewpoints from other sides, and I'm like, okay, I totally get why this can be an issue.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And you know, it's a tough line to play between offending and I don't know. I think
and it's a line that can sometimes actually accidentally
offending the right person is what I'm trying to say, you know.
Right. Well, and it's a line that can get accidentally crossed too. It's not necessarily means it's intentional either.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. So. Yeah. I just, you know, if this can be a learning experience for people to like be more mindful of these sorts of topics and why they can be damaging to, you know, certain individuals or certain demographics, like that's all we really need to tackle as three white dudes. You know, I'm not, you know, I don't want to speak directly for anybody or any group that I'm not, you know, directly a member of, but like, you know, just sort of recognizing like one step outside of my little worldview. And like, you know, that allows us to all just be better people and better humans, hopefully, fingers crossed. So yeah, events and stuff.
Cool.
I'm with you, Billy.
Cool.
What's the next big event? Because like I feel like we've sort of simmered down for the year here.
As for us, our next big event is the Denver 3D Plus Motion Tour. That one's going to be ridiculously crazy because, like, let's see,
because so many people are going to be there.
EJ will be there, the Arievs will be there, Beeple will be there, will be there. Who else?
Nick Campbell
will be there.
Nick Campbell. Man, I keep hearing more and more people. I just
hear people saying, you know, I'll be in Denver. I'll see you in Denver. It's like, all right. That one's going to be off the chain.
I think it's almost to the point like where, like, I don't know if there's plans for this or not, but like, you know, generally, in general, these meetups are like at the end of the motion tour are kind of like a mixer at the end. It feels like it's almost going to be necessary to have like a bigger party in Denver, because you know what I'm saying, instead of just like an hour mixer. This isn't I don't believe that's the last one. It might. I don't know if it's the last one.
Let me look. I'll look.
Yeah. I mean, I could bring up the site because I was actually going to talk about this anyway, but the 3D motion
last
tour.
one is Miami. That's right. The last one is Miami. I remember that Matthias saying that one was going to be a big party.
So you
got Denver, you got DC, you got Miami, you got Prague, Vienna, Lisbon. Sorry, there's a whole bunch more.
So the ones that are coming up today is today is Milan, then Madrid on the 25th, Libsyn on the 29th. Those are the ones coming up like in the next week. And LA, people have been asking about LA. That's on November 8th. I think LA is probably going to be a big one too. And yeah, we're going out just to hang out and check it out. I think that's going to be fun.
Not in LA.
Yeah.
Denver, we were looking it up, and it's like the round trip for us was $97. So we're like, why not?
The flight from Dallas to Denver?
Round trip, yes.
And is that like Spirit Airlines, or is that like Delta or something nice?
That's American.
Southwest.
Okay.
Or Southwest.
It's Southwest, yeah.
So not completely bottom of the barrel. Nope. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
I remember that like as a price point as a kid. Like $99, fly down to Florida or whatever. But it was like always Spirit Airlines and like a bunch of junk.
Yeah, Spirit is the worst. It's the absolute worst.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I've never flown Spirit.
I
always just hear how bad it is, and then I never go.
Yeah, when I flew out to LA for SIGGRAPH, they had me on Spirit, and on the way home, the flight got canceled at the gate. Like 10 minutes before boarding time, and everyone was like, sick, I gotta like book it back through LAX to get back to the help desk ahead of the other 400 people who are on this flight, so that way I can get my voucher or my redirected flight like first, because obviously all that's going to be done through first come first serve, right, like rerouting and reconnecting people. So what should have been like a 4-hour flight, I wound up getting home like 8 a.m. the next day because I flew overnight essentially, because they rerouted me through San Francisco. So yeah, Spirit, never again.
Yeah.
I was tempted. If I can fly Southwest, I only fly Southwest. You know? Is that just like your preference, or is
that
your
is my preference?
Gotcha.
As much as like, rushing to get a good seat kind of sucks. You pay the $20 ahead of time, you're good to go.
We always pay that.
Yeah.
It's so worth it.
Never having to pay for baggage is just awesome. Like, we always get 2 bags, and we're always carrying so much stuff that it just makes it so easy. Then I've got a Southwest credit card, so I get miles.
That's nice. Yeah, the Detroit airport is set up pretty much like you either fly Delta, which is the nice terminal, or anything else. And so like I know people will have like an Amex, Delta Sky Miles or whatever card, and like because where we live, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, plus whatchamacallit, Southwest is the Love Field. The only one that goes out of Love Field, and I like parking at Love Field because it's $9 a day versus $22 a day at DFW.
Right.
Yeah, I think I pay about $9 or $10 a day at the parking lot that I park at because I still have a school ID from when I was an adjunct.
That's funny.
So like I break that out. I keep that like in very close proximity in like the glove compartment of my car because like I'm always at the damn airport.
Are you still teaching? Do you still teach?
No, this is the first semester that I'm not. So I started in 2016 and that went through the winter semester of this year. For anyone who didn't know, I taught an intro C4D class at the community college where I went to school. But yeah, this is the first semester that we're not doing that anymore, and it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Because it was Tuesdays and Thursdays at night, and so it really like broke the week up in a very like, okay, Monday, Wednesday, Friday are like normal days. Tuesday, Thursday, I have to leave around like 4 in the afternoon or evening, whatever, so that I can commute out to the college classes from 5 to 8. And I make my way home, and I'm home like 8:30, whatever. So it's weird. I guess it's less weird because the summer, like we had that break during summer, and then I'm obviously you're not teaching then, but I'm not teaching anymore. So the impact is maybe a little bit less severe than if I would have just like stopped in the middle of the year, like the winter semester starting. But yeah, no, it was cool. Just like, as a freelancer or, whatever I find myself as now, you just kind of have to pick how you allocate your time.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, it's no secret that adjunct pay is not like super great.
Yeah.
So it was like, it was cool and fun and rewarding and fulfilling and all those other awesome adjectives for a number of years. But
great exposure.
I mean, I wouldn't even say that. It was an intro class, and there's like a number of other 3D courses that would follow after that I think just now people that I had very early on are now like have made it out into whatever the industry in this, the southeastern Michigan area.
Yeah.
So I think I can start running into them maybe at events and other studios and whatever around town. It'll be cool. Eventually, I know it'll happen eventually. I mean, in 6 semesters, 15 students per, that's what, 90 people, give or take, that I've introduced into the world of 3D. And I figure, one of them's got to make it all the way to the end.
Then one of them will say, "Oh, you're the whole reason that I'm doing this."
Or you sucked.
Yeah. I didn't learn anything until the next class.
Yeah. That's also my other fear in life.
Nah, don't worry about that.
No, I know. I'm kidding. I'm pretty confident that I can teach people intro C4D stuff.
James Ramirez, I had that moment when he was on the show, and I found out that he worked at MK12, and he worked on my favorite scene from that one movie that I love, Stranger Than Fiction. I was like, you're the whole reason that I am doing this because of your work. Well done.
Yeah.
I tapped my hip.
Well, and we did New York too. We didn't really talk about New York. We started talking about it before the show, but
yeah, you guys just got home from that, so let me hear how it went.
Yeah.
I did on Friday. I got home on Friday, and then he got home yesterday.
Yeah. Gosh, it was just a lot to do at the end of all the other stuff we were doing, but it was fun.
We got in on Sunday because we were told that the crate wasn't going to get there until Monday. And so we were hoping that it was Monday.
No, actually, it was supposed to originally come before that. And so we were going to start loading in on Monday. That's why we came in early on Sunday.
Because the thing is,
prep the rig.
Because the rig has been dropped a couple of times by UPS. Pushed on its side and stuff, so we didn't know if everything was going to work.
Yeah.
So
Matthias and everybody back at Maxon had to kind of like piece it back together. Yeah. Like everything was like hanging off of it and stuff, and like it looked like it had been through a tornado.
Yeah.
Like the sides of it were smashed in and all this. It was bad.
Yeah.
For a road case to get smashed, like that's the purpose of a road case. It's to protect your gear in transit, and it like was smashed.
Yeah.
And so, it just kind of
we were hoping. Yeah, we were very nervous about it. So we were hoping it was supposed to be there earlier. Come to find out that the people didn't come and pick it up the day of. Yeah. when they were supposed to. So I was like, all right. So it's like, oh, it won't be there till Monday. They're like, all right, well, we're hoping that it'll be there Monday afternoon. They said no later than 5 p.m. We're like, all right, well, it's going to be a late night then. Well, we just want to make sure that this works, right? So we get there and we find out it's 5 p.m. in another. It's like in Brooklyn. It'll get there
because it was air freighted.
So then it has to be shipped.
Which they're like, oh well, we don't do that until the next day.
And it's like, okay, we'll have it here by noon. And I'm like, oh gosh, that gives us like 6 hours to get this all completely hooked up and working. And it was very nerve-wracking, but I gotta say, Dave did a fantastic job putting that rig together, because we pulled it out even though it was a little worse for wear. It worked really well.
We were missing a pot on the mixer, and one of the first channel doesn't work anymore for some reason.
Yeah.
But, we just moved that channel over, and, that's what extras and backups are for, right?
Yeah, totally. So I mean,
it was working. Everything went well.
Would have been nice had we had a toolbox, but other than that, it was it ran really well.
Good.
We were super happy. Yeah, Nick actually ran the switcher this time.
Switch.
Yeah. So got to just sit in the back and run all the switching stuff, and it was cool. Like
great presentations, though.
Yeah, it was really great presentations. I was really happy with how few issues we ran into, because normally when we're putting those together, it's like putting it together, it's like chasing down issue. Nope, we were able to get it up and running by 6 p.m. and we even had enough time to go grab dinner and hang out with everyone.
And that's the point of our new rig, is to kind of have something in there that's versatile and easy to put together, and Swiss Army knife streaming rig. So it seems like
you can deploy it quickly.
Yeah.
No smash TVs.
No smash TVs.
Like at SIGGRAPH.
No.
Oh yeah.
But,
yeah.
So that's good. That's good.
Everything was good. So it was.
The streams went well. We did a meetup.
Yeah, we did a meetup. It was cool to have everyone
spontaneously.
We went out. Well, no, we told everyone, hey, we're gonna do a meetup. We do one at this place called Perdition. Is that what it is? Perdition. Yeah, it's over by near where we stay, and we've done it the past 3 years. It's nice because it's never really busy, the bartender's super cool, and so we just go out, we have a good time. This year, we went to dinner beforehand, and Nick from Grayscale Gorilla and Andrew Kramer were there along with a couple others, and so I was like, all right, y'all coming? So I was able to bring them along and make a few people happy. And I can't remember who it was, but someone made the joke. So Nick Campbell and Andrew Kramer walk into a bar.
All right.
Yeah, that's funny.
But we didn't really have it planned ahead of time like we usually do. We usually say, okay, hey, next week we're going to meet at this place. And it was one of those things where the day before we're like, hey, let's just try and make this work. And we didn't even know if we'd be done with that rig.
I just kind of put the thing together in hopes that, that I could ditch out while Dave kept working.
But we still had 20-something people show up, so it wasn't bad.
That was a fun little meetup.
Yeah, and we had a couple other meetups and stuff, and
went
Adobe
to the
meetup.
Adobe party in the Adobe offices. If you want to know where your $60 a month goes to, it goes to a Times Square office looking down on Times Square. It's pretty freaking ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, and
crazy
fun story.
View.
I'm going to tell this story because it's one of my favorite stories, right? So I was talking, and I don't know if I can tell this because we signed an NDA the second we walked in.
Well, that's what I was going to bring up. I said, you have to sign an NDA to get into the party.
Yeah.
It's an NDA with a form field for 40 people.
There's an NDA to the left of it and basically a sign-in sheet, So it looks like a sign-in sheet, but when in fact you're signing an NDA.
And that was to go to the party held at an Adobe office?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it a violation of the NDA to even talk about the fact that we signed the NDA?
I don't know. Anyway.
I don't know.
If you didn't read it close enough, it could be.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think the FBI is going to shut us down.
Yeah, totally.
Any second now.
But I was talking to one of the guys there who works for Adobe, and I was like, "Oh, what do you do?" He goes, "Oh, I work in the audio part." I was like, "Oh, Audition. I love Audition." He goes, "Yeah, And I said, "Oh, I've been using Audition since it was Cool Edit Pro 2.0." And he goes, "Oh, yeah. Do you know? I may get this name wrong." He goes, "Do you know Peter Quistgaard?" I'm like, "Why does that name sound so familiar? I feel like I know that person. Who is that?" And he goes, "Oh, that was the hacked name on the for the pirated version of Cool Edit Pro 2.0. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's why I recognize the name."
Oh, you mean like if you were to sign in, like the credentials that it was logging in under?
Yeah, whenever you're putting in the serial, that's the name that goes with it.
Yikes!
Whoops! Come on, I was like 18 at the time.
I was dead at the time.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was really funny. That was a
any party where you have to plead the fifth.
Yeah, right. So.
Oh, all right. Well, let's move on to a couple other things, including some Ravcock. What's your flavor?
What's your flavor?
I don't have anything in particular, except I thought it would be fun to maybe just touch on a couple engines in general before we get to our topics.
Sure.
The one thing that I have noticed is that the vector displacement for Octane 2019.
Yeah.
People are doing stuff. Chris Pretty's been doing a bunch of stuff like that, like putting ears on things.
There's a displacement blender now, right? Like you can put multiple things together for displacement.
That's cool. I'm gonna have to check that out.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I installed 2019 on my laptop this weekend.
Yeah,
but by the time I got it all installed, I didn't have time to mess with it.
Yeah,
so I'm hoping to try out that more.
I've been doing this project that we've been working on. I was working in Octane for my initial renders and stuff, but then I've been moving over to Redshift because my cards just can't handle it, and because you can't do instances of instances in Octane,
right?
In Redshift, apparently you can, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So so it's nice because it actually handles it a whole lot easier.
And why is that? Has anybody ever asked why and if that's going to be something that changes?
I don't know. I'll put it in the Octane thing right now.
I think my memory from having used Octane for years, but it was years ago when I used it, was I think so an instance will load the source geometry once, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has a point of reference if you do an instance from that point on, because it's only one layer deep, right?
Yeah.
But if you instance that instance, it doesn't know how far back to get. So as long as you build your scenes in a way where you're not using instances of instances, you're just using one level instances all the way through, you shouldn't run into much of a problem. But yeah, like you said, Matt, Redshift, you can instance an instance, and then you can make it into a Redshift proxy all day long, and the program won't give a damn.
Yeah, it was nice.
Dog, I heard you like instances.
I had to figure out some issues. I ran into some issues with Redshift where I would bring in my project and then I just put a default color on it. I was using, so I'm doing kind of this X-ray, blue outliney thing where I'm using a Fresnel shader and using that as the opacity. So that you only really get the edges and stuff like that. It looks kind of neat. But what was I saying? I forgot where I was going with this.
Were you having some sort of error? I've had errors with the Fresnel node in the past.
Yeah, no, I mean it's been fine for me. But it just this is what I was gonna say. So as soon as I loaded up in Redshift, I'd get just emissive materials on some of my stuff. It was weird. So I guess there was some materials missing on some of my things that I had to go through and just delete first, because otherwise they just show up emissive. I don't know. It was weird. It was really weird.
Yeah, I run into weird, unexplainable things in Redshift from time to time. The benefit is it's rarely crashes, right when you're going to hit render. Yeah. I'm not going to say that never happens. It does. Yeah, right. It does happen. The other week or whatever, I forgot on my third machine, I haven't adjusted the page file size. And so that machine has 4 1080 Ti's and it only had 20 gigs of page file. And so it wouldn't render unless I turned one of the cards off because it was going out of core so severely that it was falling back to the page file. Basically, the order of operations is the VRAM on the card, and then system RAM, and then the page file. So I was going so severely out of core that it was exceeding the RAM.
What's the page file?
So that is it's basically a really bad version of RAM. It's a big pool on your hard drive or your solid state drive or whatever.
Gotcha. Okay.
When you run out of actual RAM, it can still pull this thing back and forth as quick as it can. It's not as fast as pulling the CPU pulling it directly from the RAM, because that's like
it's like in After Effects when you're rendering, and once you hit a certain amount of RAM limit, you can load it into your media cache, right?
Yeah, it's more or less the same sort of situation there. But yeah, I had forgotten, because I've been using Redshift for over 2 years now. My two main machines, like I've done the page file thing like forever ago on those, and I just forgot on this other machine, because I was like, trying to hit render on this thing. I'm like, well, it renders on this one machine and it doesn't render on this other machine. And, it took me posting the forums and like doing that whole annoying deal. And I was like, oh, wait, okay, shit. Like, duh. Here's this thing that I've definitely done in the past. And it's almost like that joke of, someone who makes a tutorial and then they have to watch their old tutorial years later.
I've done it. Done it lots of times.
Yeah.
That's why I do the tutorials, so that I can have a like an actual like visual memory of it.
Yeah, the tutorial's not for anyone else. It's just for us.
Right.
It's funny.
So Billy, are there any like updates in the Redshift area that I'm less knowledgeable in that area. I don't really follow it as much as the Octane stuff.
It's been more than a calendar month since the last update on the core, like 2.6.48 or 4.9 or whatever. Which is an eternity in Redshift time, because they've, for years have been doing like 2 builds a week or multiple builds a month at least. So for them to go a full month
they got that Maxon money now.
Well, they've got Maxon money, but they also have Maxon responsibility, and now they have to acquiesce, their business into, Maxon's business, which I'm sure, is a process. And then there's all these Redshift 3.0 features that they want to fix, and implementing OSL, which is, I guess, required them to basically rewrite like everything about materials in the whole program.
Jeez. Oh, geez.
So they had to like dump a whole lot of time into that this year. Yeah. I think like probably in one quarter, like a 3-month span of 2017 or 2018, there was probably more builds released than all of this year. Since like all of these big heavy things have started hitting.
But they're in a really good place right now.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because people forever have complained that Redshift updates too frequently, and it makes it hard for render farms to keep up. It makes it hard for people to keep up with all these patch notes. So I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm just like you asked if there's news, and I'm like, well, the news is there's no news.
Yeah,
for the first time ever.
News.
Yeah.
Right.
When I was hooking up all the computers and getting Redshift on them for R21 and R20 and stuff like that at NAB East, I kept running into this error where you were on the Redshift channel when I was talking about this, and you're like, oh, just call or just go on the forums, and I'm like, I don't have time to go on the forums, like literally we're streaming tomorrow. So did I tell you what it ended up being?
No, but you guys need like a direct you need like a red phone into.
I did. I hit up Rick, and I was like, I don't know what to do. He said, call Ron over in support. I'm like, hey Ron, it's Matt, and he's like, I'll get this right over to Redshift. And what was cool was since it was a Maxon computer and he had a TeamViewer, he was able to just go right in and see it as well.
Oh, nice.
So that was pretty nice. But what it ended up being is like that through all the shipping and stuff like that, I guess one of the cards like just got borked or something. So like I turned off one of the cards, worked fine. It was like the secondary card was just messed up because I didn't notice it. I thought it was only an R21 issue. And so I was like, well, let me see if this does the same thing in R20. So I went into R20. Sure enough, it would crash on me. Like no nothing, just stop, hard crash. So then I started, I was like, you know what, let me try this in Octane. I tried the exact same thing in Octane and it would crash as well. I was like, okay, that's a bad card.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good sign.
I didn't realize that.
Like that you're able to deduce, like what was wrong in crunch time. I know that's that's the worst part about like maintaining your own like infrastructure. As a freelancer, like I have to be my own IT person.
Yeah.
To run, 3 or 4 machines at once, and it's like
or install Deadline.
Bro.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Did I just trigger you?
I mean, right. Yeah, but I lean into the joke because at this point, if I would have just paid, somebody like $1,000 to set it up a year ago, like, I mean, the whole issue would have been moot. I'd be rendering and I'd be a happy clam, for the last 365 days now. But like, we're coming up like pretty much almost to the week of last year when I tried to install Deadline. So I'm gonna have to figure out when the anniversary of that was.
That's funny.
We'll have to make a joke about it in the Slack.
Yeah, totally. That's funny.
I want to be able to get to a bunch of your stuff here, Billy. So we're gonna push forward here because I know Matt has a hard out today.
Yeah. Just quick thing. For those interested in Camp Mograph 2, go on to campmograph.com and sign up to like get the notifications. All right.
Oh yeah,
do that.
True.
Yes.
You don't want to miss out.
You don't want to miss it. It's going to be very, very limited. We want to keep it intimate, so we're probably still going to keep it small. So.
Right. All right. Okay. So there's an email that we got that I want to adjust real quick and maybe help give some advice here. What?
Nothing. Patrick's trying to tell him how to use Deadline now.
Oh,
I know. Because Pat just paid somebody to get it to make it work. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
think Barton over at Already Been Chewed did as well.
It's honestly it's the most logical thing.
Yeah.
And I'm an idiot for not doing it.
It's fine. It's fine.
This comes from Richard Barkell, Barkle. The subject of this is Mac upgrade.
Yes.
So I would like to try and answer this without saying get a PC, although that would be my first answer. But other than that,
when I read this, I was like, get a PC?
Yeah. All right. So he says, I'm a motion graphics artist running Cinema 4D, Octane, After Effects, etc. I'm looking to upgrade my Mac system and stay on the Mac. Mac Pro El Capitan 10.11.6, early 2009. 2 times 266 gigahertz 6-core Intel Xeon, 32 gig 1066 megahertz DDR3, NVIDIA GeForce Titan X. And here are my options so far. Number 1, a Mac Pro 2012 12-core 128 gig of RAM NVIDIA Titan X. Apple Mac Pro 6.1 27 gigahertz 12-core, 1 terabyte SSD with an eGPU box, or wait for the new Mac Pro and use that with an eGPU box.
Wait.
Now,
I personally am going to say wait for the new Mac Pro, because if you're going to invest the money, what is it supposed to be coming out in the next few weeks, isn't it? I don't know. I thought it was November.
They always said before end of year, and Apple usually is pretty good about like what that phrase means. So I would say probably in the next month. But honestly, I would say get a 5K iMac, not the iMac Pro. That's just like the regular silver shaped iMac, and then get an eGPU. Because the studio above my office, they're all like classical Mograph with like a decent amount of 3D, but they use Arnold, and they just use like online farms when they need to. But the 5K iMacs are in that sweet spot where it's like 4 or 6 cores, but it's a pretty good clock speed. Pushing or getting in the ballpark of like 5 gigahertz per core, and like After Effects really loves that. After Effects is not gonna like a 12 or 20 core machine with a 3.0 or less gigahertz clock speed, because After Effects just really doesn't leverage more than like maybe 2 or 4 cores. Like go ahead and run a render and then check Activity Monitor, which is the Mac version of Task Manager, and see it'll say like 200 or 300% CPU, because on Mac, each full core is 100%. So if it's using 2 cores, it'll say 200%. If it's using 4 cores, it'll say 400%. It's not going to say like as many hundreds or thousands of percent based on how many cores you have if you've got like a 24 core machine. So getting like some juiced up Mac Pro for After Effects is honestly junk. And like any GPU rendering in Cinema if you're primarily using GPU rendering and not CPU rendering, going to be the same deal. Your CPU is very little, if any, use. So you really just need it to be as snappy as possible to get the interface and like your effectors and whatever other single-threaded junk, like caching X particles or whatever other nonsense you need to do. If you were in like Houdini, or if you were like doing like full-on, CPU rendering with like Arnold or Corona or something, I would say, get like a Mac Pro with as many cores as possible. But honestly, I would say, if for a regular Joe Schmo Mograph box, a 5K iMac is like honestly really hard to beat, because the OS like handles the resolution of that interface super well. You get a really awesome screen built in. And if you buy like a 2017 used one or like a refurb or whatever, you're going to save like a ton of cash, and then get that eGPU box and throw whatever, Basically what I'm saying is hit up.
Here's on eBay, 32 gig, 1 terabyte SSD, Core i7 4 gigahertz, 5K for $1,600.
Yeah, go hit up Andy Needham on Twitter. I think his @ is I'm called Andy. I know he's like a Mac and eGPU guy. Like, go hit him up, see like what the best eGPU box is or whatever. Like, because I don't know any of that world. Go ask him nicely on Twitter, and I'm sure that he'll tell you the best box to pair with a 5K iMac, and you should honestly be off to the races for like under $2-3 grand, I'd think.
Yeah, and Grant says there's a point when you have to weigh the cost benefit of trying to keep up with getting a Mac to render GPU stuff, or the cost of waiting for the new Mac. Because the thing about, there's a possibility that with the new Mac, I don't know if this has really been clarified yet. Well, first of all, you're going to be able to run the new render engine, the new GPU render engines on other types of cards. I still don't know really if you're going to be able to do like the NVIDIA stuff on it or not. It was kind of a gray area.
Yeah, so you definitely won't be able to, because all of the new, so right now I think the newest OS is called Catalina, which correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 10.15. So 10.14, which was the OS that came out last year, I believe that was called Mojave. That outright 100% removed the ability for you to install a CUDA driver. So
okay. I don't think that's 100% true, because there are some that will work, but the only ones that work are a 6080 Ti or something like that. Like, that's the only
ones that they have in other laptops.
Yeah.
Right? Like the older
it's
laptops.
Specifically it's a Mac specific.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah, it's the
NVIDIA card.
Right. So years ago, when Mac machines did ship with NVIDIA cards, the VBIOS, which is the video cards BIOS, would always be flashed to accommodate running on the Mac without the driver itself. So that's what. But again, like you said, you're limiting yourself to a card that's like how many gens old now? It's like 6 gens.
What sucks is, like, if you've got one of those cards, they're still worth some money nowadays.
But they're not worth like to render on. I would say it's not worth,
right? Not at all
from a hardware standpoint. Yeah, it's not worth clinging onto that. So if you can get an iMac that is old enough to have a 10.13, which I think is High Sierra, if you can get that OS, you can throw whatever eGPU stuff you want at it. Like, hell, you might even be able to run 1080 Ti's or like some good Titans or whatever on it. So that would probably be my recommendation if like you are hell-bent on staying on Mac OS. Obviously, I'm 100% on everyone should be switching to PC if they want to consider, like this machine being a tool, you being the artist who uses that tool. Like, I don't believe that you should have an allegiance to one brand of hammer versus a different brand of hammer.
And bang for your buck.
Yeah.
I mean,
so Jonas Farah in the chat is saying Otoy and Redshift did announce they're redeveloping the renders for Radeon GPUs. Yes.
So the new updates for the GPU render engines will support Metal, which is NVIDIA's equivalent, language that the computer speaks to the video card through, and that runs on the AMD cards. That doesn't mean that inherently out of the box, AMD cards will run on Windows. It only means that the new Radeon stuff that's coming in the new Mac things will work. Those will work. And maybe like the trash can if you still have those.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't even think about that.
But there's another thing to consider here.
There are some breakthroughs. Sorry to cut you off, Dave.
Sure.
Them getting Metal to work on those AMD cards is a step in the direction of AMD GPUs working on Windows, but it's not. It's not the same thing. Metal and AMD on Windows is not 100% linked. Like they're close, but not quite.
Well, okay. Here's the other thing to consider. This is a reason not to go with the older models. I still have a MacBook Air here that is pretty old at this point that I used to do the raw recording of the audio for the show with my interface box and all of that. And I just updated it and to the newest OS. And the problem is that some of these apps now, because of the new OS, are moving to only 64-bit. Only 64-bit is where you used to have the option. And so what's going to happen is you're going to lose support for a lot of these programs pretty soon that are changing. So if you're on a 32-bit system and all the new updates of all this Mac software is only 64-bit, you're not going to be able to run it anymore.
Yeah.
So like getting an old 2012 might be like better, more affordable or whatever, but you're not going to be able to update your OS to the newest operating system, and therefore you will not be able to run the new programs that are coming out.
Right. And I think I would super duper recommend, if you're listening, to fact check this, but I think Adobe Cloud, the program, only supports maybe like the last 3 versions of macOS. So if we're talking about right now is 10.15, that means that 14 and 13 would be covered. But next year when 16 comes around, that means that like eventually, 10.13 or 14, whatever the last one that has the CUDA support, eventually that will go out of date. So like, okay, you're clinging onto this this eGPU box so that you can render an Octane, but now all of your Adobe Cloud doesn't work. So it's like at one point or the other, like stuff is going to go completely wrong if you remain out of date for too long. And that's obviously just, everybody wanting you to update and wanting you to be running on the newest thing so that they only have to support so many versions back. Like honestly, I think remaining on Mac OS, whether you like Finder, column view, spacebar preview, like all that stuff, it's just a losing battle, I think, unfortunately, because there's going to be so many more things conflicting, like OS conflicting with your driver, which conflicts with what bit programs you can run, which who knows what else in the future as they continue to, railroad people into updates.
Yeah.
It's just a domino effect of just cobbling things together and band-aiding things that becomes such a pain and such a time waste that it's like, wait, what are you doing that for? I know that the file explorer thing in Windows is terrible, but at what point do you just sacrifice that? Because most of the time you're working in After Effects or working in Cinema 4D, whatever, everything looks the same anyway. And I know it's a hurdle and there's a learning curve and you got to retrain your muscle memory and all that kind of stuff. But
we ran into that at NAB. We had to have Robin on a PC, and she hasn't really ever used one.
Oh, so, she did it like a champ, though. She totally she did great.
So, but we had to, some of the files that she was using, we had to actually just move over to Premiere instead of actually playing because VLC still wouldn't even play.
Because of codec problems. There are going to be issues, but I feel like you've got to weigh those issues. Yeah. How much band-aiding are you willing to take in order to have an older Mac system or just have that Mac Finder? I know it's tough. I mean, I was a total fanboy, but, again, I don't want to answer with switch to PC.
I like the idea of getting a 5K iMac, I like that. And if you could, the thing is, like, if I know I know Otoy at some point said that they were working on headless rendering, which, would be awesome. If I could have a 5K iMac and then my PC just sitting there being a big, render
dumb
box
box.
and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. That'd be cool.
I mean, that's more or less how Ash works. He operates the 5K or whatever iMac he's got, and then he just remotes into his two PCs that sit next to him. And if he needs to render something, he queues it up, he hits render, but he's doing it all through his Mac, which is what he prefers. So,
does he have an HEBU box?
No. So he's got PC boxes with real deal GPUs, but like what he actually interfaces with is always the Mac itself. So it's like, I mean, if people figure out whatever workflow works for them, and they you cling to it as long as you can until the manufacturers paint you into a corner via updates, and then you figure something else out.
All right, well, let's move on to some of these topics, because there's a lot that Billy, I want to talk to you about, that we've that you've had so much going on in the last couple months too, and number one is like event titles. And I just basically I took your tweet from the other day and just copied and pasted for show topics. But these event titles from Half Res, which were great.
Yeah, dude.
We didn't get to talk too much about them.
To the whole Box Fort team, because they were so good. They were so good.
No, thank you guys. The reception inside of the event, at Half Res, for anyone who wasn't aware, I'm a member or one of the members of a Detroit freelance artist collective called Box Fort. So you can find us on Instagram at Box Fort Detroit. We're a bunch of freelancers here in town, and we have a shared workspace in a schoolhouse. There's some other studios in the building that we freelance for, or we find our own work to freelance, kind of whatever. Amador from the Half Res committee hit me up, way early on this year and asked me if I wanted to contribute to Half Res, and it sounded like a blast. Like anything that's cool, I go and tell my group chat, or I tell all my buddies about it. And everyone was like, hey, like I want to chip in, and then all of a sudden we've got 7 or 8 people on board, and at that point you have enough labor power, people power to do like the whole title sequence. And so we hit them back saying like, we're not just going to do bumpers, we want to do like a full-blown like thing, kind of a start to finish narrative, which shows these characters coming together like as attendees of Half Res. So if you haven't seen the video, I think you can go on Half Res Vimeo page, or you can go to halfres.com/titles and check out the video that we made. It was 2-minute kind of show opener for the event. Cool. It was a ton of fun, and we pretty much broke it up into thirds, and that was purely out of necessity.
But you can tell, and it worked really well together. That idea worked.
Oh yeah, no, thank you, and that's just creative problem solving in terms of like, okay, well, if we divide this into groups and we kind of break up into subgroups, that allows us to, well, one, finish the damn thing and make it to like a bigger, awesome scope that we want to do, instead of like forcing everyone to work into a singular workflow. And it's just about like, kind of creatively writing, solving that puzzle, getting yourself out of that corner, that trap of like, well, if everyone works on this one art style, like how do we manage that logistically? Well, you don't. You just basically make 3 videos that all have a different art style, that have different people interact or different people involved on each segment, and then you creatively stitch those together in some roundabout way that allows it to make sense. And at the end of the day, I appreciate your compliment and all that, and we all fully agree that we pulled it off how we wanted it to. And then I helped on blend a little bit as well, which was like 2 days later. Because Gunnar, the studio that's above me.
That's right.
Yeah. So I chipped in on some early environment modeling and a little bit of character modeling and character rigging. I played a significantly smaller role in that project than I did for Half Res, so I don't want to claim too much credit, but you can get a check for my involvement for Blend on my website. So gurnge.com/blend. Is it blend titles? I forget exactly if you check out my product or projects page on my website, you can see what I worked on. But yeah, they had a really creative workflow where they had a really awesome matte painter. And he would paint like really super pretty pictures, and you would get the perfect, as a 3D person, I can perfectly imagine like how far back, because he's so good with color and atmosphere and tones and everything. Like you just know like what focal length this shot is supposed to be and how far back, like the furthest asset is, or like what the hero asset is and the center of frame or whatever. So my role was basically just taking, real rough matte painting, blocking in super duper low polygon, like just basic volume builder, primitives, maybe a little bit more than primitives, and then getting all that figured out so that way they could go back in and do like VR sculpting and all kinds of animation and all the awesome stuff, 4, 5, 6, 7 steps after me. It just all kind of blocked out, exactly like, well, this is the small little portion that I need to focus on because this is what's visible in frame. The VR tools that they're using, Oculus Medium and Quill, they're really awesome. But because it's like this new, wearing a VR helmet and all of this is such a different experience, it's really easy for you to get lost in like, well, where should I be focusing?
Yeah.
Right? Like, where should I be putting my effort, my artistic effort? And so like them having the exact little like camera fulcrum, like the little viewpoint of what the camera can see, having that solved already was like a super easy way for them to jump in. So just like, it was an honor to kind of set those things up and attend the event and see everyone's super response. The first day at the event, the titles played, everyone claps, the host comes on stage, he says, "Those titles were awesome. Everyone stand up who worked on it." And so like, I looked around, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll stand because, I'm credited on this thing. And then when I sat down, some guy who was in the row in front of me, he turned around and like shook my hand. He was like, "Great job." Like I didn't know his name. He didn't ask my name, didn't say anything other than just like, "Hey, great job." And he shook my hand and I was like, well, hell, like that was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of little inside or little jokes sprinkled throughout the half-res title.
Oh yeah, no, there's so much like in the subway stations and
what's your favorite one?
What's my favorite one?
Yeah.
Well, it's a really dumb Easter egg, and it's not much of an Easter egg because it's so blatant in the ending when all the aliens are popping up. It is a reference to the 10-hour remix of the ALMAO Alien Trap remix. And this is, I'll link it in YouTube in the chat if I can. It's super dumb, and it's a joke in our office where like one of us started playing it and then took a video on like, well, this is back when we used Snapchat like in our group, years ago. Someone took a video of it playing on their screen, and then the next person played it on 2 screens at the office, and then all throughout the day it kept escalating to the point where like me and my roommate Nick, like I had it playing on my computer, my laptop, the living room TV, his computer, his tablet, like, and we were like running around the house like showing it playing on all these things. And so that joke kind of spiraled out of control in our little like group chat. And so like getting an alien model and then figuring out, researching what kind of dance that alien is doing in the video, which is like something kind of like Central or South American. And so I found like some samba dance on Mixamo that looked like pretty close, and then learning Mixamo because I'd never used it before.
I remember when you were in the Slack talking about it, and you were like, I can see why people like this.
Oh, dude, it's honestly it's super fun. It's so satisfying to put a model into Mixamo, get it rigged, and then just like do dumb shit with it. I 100% understand why people do these dailies with it now. For as much as I've slammed the like dancing fur simulation people. I completely get it now, which is kind of fun because in that same shot, I used Raoul Mark's astronaut model. Which is That's
wasn't sure whether that was actually his or not.
Yeah, so that was the astronaut model from the internet, because that's been in every other daily, as well. And so that one shot, I did like kind of a fake cloth sim thing on that model. I really just use like Spherify and like whatever bulge deformer and like dumb stuff. But like I wanted it to look like he was like a big inflatey, balloon animal kind of deal. So that shot was probably my favorite. But everyone in our group, we all worked on getting our own little, stupid memes and references snuck in. Like there's a missing Dave Laurent poster.
Yeah, I saw that.
His creative
has your artwork been stolen? Call 1-800-EXPOSED. I like that. Yeah,
there's a lot of them in our Slack channel. We had a running thread of like of Easter egg to-do list, basically. And so that was super fun to just contribute to like all throughout the time of doing it. Nick sits next to me in the office, and so he would be like working on a shot or whatever, and he's like, I've got these 2 panels, like what can we put here? And then we would workshop like funny ideas and just figure out like what we wanted to put in there, kind of walking that line of like what's a meme, what's not. So yeah, definitely check the titles, watch them all the way through if you haven't seen them, but then the next time you rewatch it, definitely freeze frame it and try to catch as many.
That's what I'm doing right now.
Catch the tidbits.
All the stickers on the walls in the subway or whatever. What's Corn Man?
It's close to somebody's last name.
Oh, gotcha.
That's the first thing I thought.
That's funny.
That's great.
Funny. The LaCroix sticker, I like that.
Because every Mograph office has to have ping pong and LaCroix.
Yeah. It's funny. I like it. Really good. It's really good work, dude. I like. Yeah.
So when you do you call just for people who aren't aware of how this works. When you call your freelance, and then you say, okay, also we have this collective. What does that exactly mean in terms of structure?
Yeah, so it's obviously something that we're always trying to figure out day by day. But if you look at like historically the companies or studios that started as a collective like Moth or MK12 or any of these other big players from way back in the day, they start out as a group of friends, like either from school or they know each other from whatever city they live in, whatever. And they kind of band together as, artists. And so right now, for the most part, we all work individually on a commercial standpoint. So like I have my clients. If somebody emails me with a job and I can't do it, I'll try to pass it off to somebody else in the room. And if not, I'll find somebody else in Slack or whatever to pass it off to. But for the most part, we all kind of do that where we all like pool our like job inquiries and we try to, keep as much of the work under our little ceiling as we can.
Do you when like a client, if you're too busy to take a job and you offer it to someone else, do you play art director role and like email role, or do you just pass it off to them directly? You know what I'm saying?
Right. No, and that's a totally valid question because you can play either side of that. If there is enough budget or enough sort of like scope or whatever where it would make sense for you to still remain involved on that project to some degree, then yeah, that's definitely happened within our room. Usually like, if a 2D person gets hit up and it's like a repeat client that they've had like, an ongoing thing with, they don't want to like pass off that client for forever, so they'll maintain some sort of like involvement on that and then bring another, member of Boxfort sort of in under them, if the rate makes sense to do all that. So that way it still like sort of makes sense. But for the most part, if people hit me up, I either directly pass it off, and like, someone else full on steers the ship. They get all the money, they get all the whatever. We don't take finder's fees or anything like that when we play it like that, just because, I mean, if you don't have involvement in the job, in my opinion, you deserve no, part of that pie. But we have, just, a week or two ago, I started quoting out, a potentially pretty big job for a bunch of trade show cool graphics. And, I was like asking people like, hey, would you be available at this time? And somebody else can then fill in when you're no longer available. And, all in all, it would have been like, 3 or 4 of us on the job. And, I sent the quote out, it bounced back saying like, we're going to go somewhere else for money reasons or whatever. But, I was inspired from Barton's speech at Camp Mograph to like figure out a way to see how, like either me on my own or Boxfort as a company or growing into a company, like how we can get that ball rolling. And I mean, the only real answer is at some point a job comes through with enough money where it makes sense for multiple people to be involved, and then we go through and we do the LLC, we get a lawyer, we do all, so that.
So there's no LLC or anything like that
as of right now, no. And that's just because at some point one of us will have
before someone steals the Boxfort LLC.
Well, there's already other Boxfort like Mograph things. Like if you look up, like there's somewhere else in the country, like there's already a Boxfort. Like we don't have like the @boxfort.com or like @boxfort on Twitter. Like this is all shit that's already been taken by other people just because it already has been. And so if we get to the point where we do, sort of, fully link up and we do the company and lawyer and all that, we'll do business as Boxfort Detroit LLC or what, whatever.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just to, to circumvent whatever legal things we need to, play that by the book. But obviously that's a cost that somebody has to eat at some point, like a couple grand to get that, ship sailed out into the ocean. And until, a job comes through, like no one of us want to, bite that off, on our own. And it's a company where there's 8 of us in one room. If we all want to start individually doing business as Boxfort, that means all of a sudden everyone's income has to go through this like shell company, and then we all pay each other out. And it's like at that point everyone's exposed and knows like exactly how much money is going in and going out of every single person's pocket, which is like we're all friendly in terms of like what our rates are and like what should my rate be for this or that or whatever, but like not every single person needs to know every single dollar that every other person's making. Like that's that's just not exactly necessary at this point. So there's like, there's still some time or some room for us to grow into all of those necessities, but for the time we're just kind of playing it by ear. We're basically friends with an Instagram account, a shared Instagram account, and then our own individual Instagrams, just trying to find our way in this big old Mograph world.
Yeah.
And from a collaborative standpoint, though, the reason that it works is because you know each other, right? Yeah. You're working with each other. You have kind of that established relationship. And I feel like that's a great way to, if you're going to do something for free or you're going to do some sort of collaborative effort, that's the way to go about it, And there was a thing this morning in the Cinema 4D Facebook group where there was just a random person who does movie stuff, and they're doing something with space, and they wanted to add this astronaut, and they're like, and some space backgrounds and stuff, and they're on there soliciting free work. They're like, well, I need just a random person to do this for free for me. And so I was like, is this what we're allowing now in this group, is just people to come in and ask for free? Because I know the Cinema 4D subreddit does not allow that.
We don't.
Just say who wants to do some work for exposure.
Yeah, no, we have a specific set of rules that people have to go through if they're even asking for work, if they want to hire someone.
Right.
Yeah.
And so somebody from that group was, or actually I think the admin of that group was like, no, well, we allow these. And I'm like, well, okay, well, I want to know why. Like, I'm not trying to like start anything here, but I went on and I did a poll, and I'm like, do you feel that this group should allow other people to come in and ask just strangers for free work, for exposure dollars. And it's, I don't know what the poll is up to now, but as of this morning, it was like, I don't know, 50 something to 1, no. And so an admin in the group, or not an admin, besides the admin, a moderator in the group said, well, I feel the same way you do. People shouldn't be just coming in here and asking for these people to do free work. And a lot of answers were about, oh, well, everybody's an adult. They should be able to decide, and it's like, well, yes and no. I mean, like the way I feel is if you don't have those close relationships with people to collaborate for or with, those are the people you want to be doing this kind of stuff with. If you're going to go do a free project or an independent project, I don't think, like if I was going to do an independent project, I wouldn't just go on the internet and find a random person who I have no idea about who they are, their work ethic or anything, or, just to do that with. I feel like that would be me asking for someone to work for me for free. And the point that is brought up a lot of times is that there are a lot of newcomers in this industry. And there are so many people in our industry right now who are established who are like, no, why would you work for free? Don't, a plumber wouldn't come to your house and you're like, well, can you just do it for free? And then I'll just tell everybody about you. And then, you'll get exposure for your plumbing work. And I don't know why it's like a double standard, but it seems to me like people who are new in the industry it's not like they need to be schooled. That's not what I'm saying, but people need to help them understand that the fact that I know you're new to this industry and I know this sounds very appealing, but let me just warn you based on my experience that exposure dollars are generally not worth much.
I think people see artists as as like we're passionate about art, right? We love doing art, And so because of that, we should do art for people just for the joy of doing art, for the fulfillment of doing art for other people. It's like, yeah, kinda,
But I know there's a lot of people that will like maybe do title sequences for free, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I feel like that's understandable because of an existing relationship with people and collaborators.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, the way that, Half-Res was successful is because we're all, best friends in this shared work environment and we know each other. We've collaborated with one another in the past. And so we have like that communication, we have that trust. I know that if we break this project into thirds, so that means I'm directing the final third of the video. Well, that means I'm 66% unresponsible for what's going on in the rest of this video, right? Mm-hmm. So there's like a certain element of like trust or like faith you have to have in the other party or parties, your other collaborators. And yeah, like what you said about, if you've got your like short film, whatever thing that you're doing and you bring somebody else on and you have no clue who this is, how like practical of a workflow they work in, or like what sort of team environment they can fit into, like you have no idea like what this end product is in. Like, how do you vet anybody in that situation? I think that's completely like crazy town. But that's just because I'm passionate about the end product or whatever, and I like, it takes a lot for me to like be willing to give up that creative control over a certain project. And like I would only do so, in an environment like Boxfort or whatever, or if it was like me and another close friend, like from Slack or Twitter or whatever, if we came up with an idea together alongside of one another, and we both felt like we had stake in this project, if this person who wants to make this cool space Mograph video, posts on the forum or the group or whatever, and they're like, I need a modeler to model me a spacesuit. Like, what does that person who models the spacesuit get out of any of this? Because like, sure, they can show the wireframes on their ArtStation or their website or their Twitter or whatever. And like, if the person who's, directing the project or whatever is doing their due diligence, they will properly tag and credit the work as each person did it. But that's very rarely the case. I've run into this exact situation where like there's projects where I've worked on, and if you look at my version of the project on my website, I list out at the top, the absolute top of the web page, who did what I did in excruciating detail. Like I do this in the description of every demo reel that I cut, all my project pages. At the top of the website, it has link outs to every other person who worked on it when possible. And most people don't run their websites like that. You'll see a tiny little footer, an addendum at the bottom after you scrolled for an hour, and it'll just be the person's name. No URL, no hyperlink, just like go ahead and copy that text and paste it into a new tab and like have fun. Like, it's like it's a choose your own adventure game at that point. And that's like the really disappointing and upsetting thing when like working with other people, when others represent the work in certain ways. It can be really frustrating, and like I've had that happen to me, and that's why I'm like much more selective over like who and what I work on for these exposure dollar type things. I turned down a really awesome full-time job opportunity during the midst of half res to continue working on it with my friends and like stay in town and like finish this project out and see through the launch of whatever this collective thing is, because we might try to turn this into a company. I don't know, but it was super hard, and it breaks my heart that I had to turn this job opportunity down, because it's a super awesome thing. And like, I'm not going to out it just because, of respect to like who would be coming in, in place of that job spot that I turned down or whatever. But like, if it breaks my heart to like have to say no to certain opportunities because like you're committed to whatever, this project is, if you take on a bunch of personal work and somebody else comes on, like you still need to balance and be responsible for like what you've committed to and what you haven't,
Totally.
Yeah. And
it's a really tough. Oh, sorry. I didn't want to cut you off. I had one more thought that I want to track on is you said, sort of like younger artists who are still sort of figuring out, their place in the industry, if they're approached or see, this potential collab opportunity or whatever. There's always power dynamic issues in terms of like if there's one big established artist and there's other younger or less established artists, or even if it's like skill sets or personality types, like one person being like a verbose, like macho personality, and the other person like not wanting to upset the other person, like if there's out of scope requests, or if people's expectations are misaligned with like, oh, well, I thought you were going to model and rig and texture the spaceman, but you just modeled it. So like now I'm not going to give you credit in this, hypothetical thing from, your Facebook group. Like in that situation, then nobody's happy, right? Because the guy who thought he was going to get a fully modeled, rigged, and textured spaceman model doesn't have the thing that he wanted to get. And the person who only modeled the thing is now going to feel bad because like maybe they're not going to be given credit, or they're going to be they're going to get blasted on Twitter or wherever. And like that's a lose-lose for everybody. And so everyone who engages or is going to take part in a collab project, everyone's expectations need to be out in the open. Everyone's responsibility, involvement, the timeline, all of these things need to the same way that we would quote out a job. It's silly to think like, oh, this is just art. Like we're just making art because we're artists. Like, no, like you should probably be scheduling this thing out so that people have at least a rough idea of when the animatic is going to be done, or when you're going to get me the storyboards, or when you're going to get me this finished model or whatever. Right. And
how much creative freedom did you have on the title sequence?
100%.
Yeah.
Like Amador was like,
did you have to at least run it by them, say this is what we're going to do?
I mean, we did. Early on, Amador was like, if you guys want me to help, creative direct or oversee stuff, like you can shoot ideas by me or whatever. And we were like, cool. That's it's awesome to have in our back pocket, but I think we want to run with it from here and see what we come up with. And he was like, okay, great, that's awesome, because obviously it's less work for him to have to manage a project. And we've been doing this enough time that we can, put a damn schedule together ourselves and stick to it like adults. And, give him check-ins of, like, okay, these are the style frames of some of the characters. This is the first teaser animatic of each scene, like, one of each of the 3 worlds inside of half-res. We deliver those, like, I don't know, it was like sometime around SIGGRAPH, so like July-ish. And then we were like, all right, we're going to step back. You know what you're going to get based off of these 3 things. We're going to go do the rest of it now. And you'll get a finished thing like, the day before or the week before or whatever. Like we'll give you a render when this goes to like the sound designer, because at that point, like the visuals will be mostly locked.
Yeah.
But, like,
right.
Yeah, we got like all the control that we wanted to, which is the right way to do an exposure dollars job, because from the client standpoint, they're going to get a cool video because the artists are able to like make a thing that they like and they're passionate about. And like we found ways to work together where maybe 2 people working on one segment, they wouldn't have made that thing look the way that it did if they would have been making it themselves, but they were able to find like a cool way to like use one another's skill sets to build something that was, it's greater than the sum of its parts kind of deal. That's the correct way to run an exposure dollars project. Like having a schedule, having expectations, everyone knows what's the end goal, and just like a real job, like there's deliverables, there's a schedule, there's a scope, there's an idea that, we got to come up with the idea and workshop it ourselves and do all that. But like, somebody, somebody gave us that opportunity, and that's the right way to do it. Blasting out into the open internet saying like, hey, I want somebody to make this thing for me.
Yeah.
For my video is not
right.
That's not the way to run an exposure dollars project, because, you're going to run into those issues where there's power dynamics issues between the parties involved, and then it's lose-lose.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you have an established relationship with the people you're doing it for as well. They're not just random strangers on the internet. And you kind of know where it's going. You've been to half res, right? I mean,
exactly,
like,
yeah.
You know what it is. You know where it's got. I mean, same thing with like Node or anything else. Of course, if those people asked me like to collaborate on some titles, I'd be like, oh, dang, yo, like, absolutely, because I know who they are and I know what it's about, and I know I really know what it's worth because of that, and I know, like, people like, like think about Half Res and Chris Schmidt and all the background in that and how much I've gotten from that community to begin with.
Yeah, no, there's equity involved in that from both, from all parties involved. As friends, we've attended half res in the past. Like you said, we know what the vibe is. We know that this is it's not a product, like if a client came to you with like a product, whatever, but like, the product, quote unquote, is something that we stand by. It's a cool event run by cool people that we were going to go to anyway. So yeah, it's a perfect fit. If you...
A way to give back,
Exactly, right. If you model shoes all day long and you're the shoe guy and somebody comes in and asks you, bangs down your door or your email inbox and says, hey, can you make a character for me? That's not the right fit,
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to get some of the other things on your list because we also have links to do. So I could bring up some of the funny ones if you want, like living with 2 adolescent cats.
Yeah. So like 2 months ago, I
like your Instagram story with all your cats.
Oh yeah. No. So I guess I'll give a little bit of the story about the cats. So, I moved into this apartment. I live here alone as of like, June or whatever. And it's a cat-friendly apartment. So I was like, sweet, I'm definitely going to get cats. I lived and grew up with them like my whole life. I'm going to get a cat. Hell yeah, this is going to be dope. So I decided like, okay, I think I want a black cat just because I had an all-white cat when I was younger or whatever. Like, let's get a black cat. Sure, cool. I like death metal and all that other dumb stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, it's a perfect fit. So I want a black cat. Great. Go on Pet Finder, start filtering by black cats. All right, awesome. Do a little bit more research. Find out, I don't think I really want a kitten, like a legit kitten, like, 8 weeks old. Like, you got to train it everything in life. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Maybe not necessarily the thing that I want to do because, like,
they'll eat the crap out of all your cables.
Right. And there are times when I'm away for a long time, like all these damn travel events that I go to and or just being at the office for long shifts or whatever. So I'm like, all right, I want like at least like a teenager, in terms of like, cat biology. So like, a year and a half or older. So great. Find a cat. Email the lady, like, hey, I want to try to adopt this cat. Like, what do we do? Fill out the application. She tells me, like, hey, I want to come by the apartment just to do like a check or whatever.
I think that's so funny. You're the second person I've heard of who wanted to adopt an animal, and the people had to come by their house in order to, check to make sure like everything's okay and stuff. When I got my cat, it was a flea-infested kitten that I got off of Craigslist for $20.
Okay, yeah. I mean, there's either that school of cat acquisition, or there's the like legal, like I'm going to a shelter or through like an ASPCA, like the real deal.
Right.
Like there's no in between, basically. So I email the lady. She works at some fostering agency or whatever, and so this is actually the day of Mike Beeple's his Toronto gallery show. So Detroit to Toronto is like a 4-hour drive. So I drive there the day of the event, and then I have to drive home early so that I can get back in time to meet this lady at my place. Because she's like, I'm coming at 5:00 on Saturday. I'm like, okay, like rearrange whatever I need to rearrange. And like, I just have to make this work. If I want this cat, this is the time this lady's coming. This is my shot. Okay, whatever. It is what it is. So, I get home, I bought like some cat toys. I got like a litter box and whatever, like just in case this guy comes over and like, he needs to go, to the bathroom, like, he's like all set, whatever. Sweet lady knocks on the door. She's got 2 kennels, like two cat carriers. And she's like, I know I can explain. Like, I know I'm carrying 2 cats right now. And I'm like, all right, like come in, like, what's the deal here, lady? Turns out they're brothers.
I can explain.
Legit. She's like, I know. She's like, legit, like standing on my porch. She's like, I know I've got 2 cats in my hands. I can explain. And I'm like, okay, like this is a age old bait and switch technique.
Right.
And so she's like, well, they're brothers. They're both 1 year and 4 months. They've never been separated. I've tried to adopt them separately in the past, and it's all 3 times that she's tried to adopt one of these cats. At whatever point in time, they always got returned, because she's had them.
So sad.
She's had them since they were like kitten age, so she's had them for over 1 year. And she said 3 times she tried to adopt, like one of them like once, the other one twice or whatever. And long story short, the cats have just never been able to live apart. They've just always been together. So I'm like, all right, great. Like, I'm like, I'm holding these kittens and they're all cuddly and whatever, like on this home visit. And I'm like sitting here like, great. Like, I thought I was getting 1 cat. So I'm either getting 0 cats or 2 cats. It's just whatever.
Right.
And so here we are. Like, one of them's over there on the couch, like behind me, like hiding under a sheet. The other one's probably in my bedroom on my bed. They're 2 awesome little rascals. They chase each other around the house. They haven't really torn up the place too much. Like, they haven't like broken anything reasonably important, which is good. They do like flip over like all the rugs, and like the bath mat in the bathroom is like always like crinkled and like smashed against the toilet, and like there'll be stuff knocked off my desk every morning. It's like I gotta like this morning, like all the dish rags and stuff like off my in my kitchen were all like knocked on the floor. They'd gotten down the little feather duster, which is like magneted to the side of my fridge. It's like every morning is a new experience figuring out what these 2 bastards got into. But it's
fun. It's just a bird. It's a dead bird
just to watch.
I need 24-hour like live feed on these 2 suckers so that I can recap every night like what kind of Royal Rumble madness took place.
That could be like an Instagram account right there.
It obviously, no, it certainly could. But yeah, no, they've been awesome. I've had them almost 2 months now, and they're still very skittish of me. I don't get to pet them. I'm not like diving after them, like trying to like, frighten them or whatever. I'm giving them time. I'm going to wait for them to warm up to me. And, it might take 6 months or whatever. But at some point, I'm going to be sitting on the couch and one of them's going to jump up and like crawl into my lap for the first time. And I'm going to completely break down. And we'll just wait for that to happen. We'll just wait them out.
Like, will they let you like scratch their head and stuff like that? Nope. Really?
I'll sit very still in my chair, and I'll see one of them like do a lap, like coming out from like the food bowl or from the litter box or whatever. And if I'm very still, I can hold my hand out like behind me a bit, and like maybe 50% of the time they'll come up and sniff, but then immediately bolt.
Wow. And how long have you had them?
Like 6-7 weeks.
Wow.
Granted, a couple of those weeks I've been gone because I've been traveling.
Oh, that's true.
So I've really only
been given give them treats and stuff like that? Yeah, I've got the cat Go-Gurt sticks. Oh, I don't know what that is. That's cool.
One sec, they love them.
All right. See, there was the cat Go-Gurt. See, we had what was it, puppy paws or whatever. Oh.
Yeah, okay. So you cut the end off, and it's like quite literally Go-Gurt. Yeah, it's like a gooey kind of pate kind of whatever. And they'll just sit there and like lick the end of it.
Is it actual Go-Gurt though? Like no, it's sweet like Go-Gurt, or is it like cat food?
It's like tuna, like whatever. Okay. Like, or I
was gonna say because
flavored yogurt.
If it was Go-Gurt or something like that, what you should do is wait, what?
Tuna, my favorite Dannon flavor.
My favorite Go-Gurt flavor.
Oh, yeah. Danimals.
No, a good life hack with Go-Gurt is putting it in the freezer and then eating it like a popsicle. I was gonna say, if it was like actual Go-Gurt, you could freeze it and then they could just like, lick it, go to town.
Do cats like frozen things like dogs do like that? Like
I don't think so. One of the dogs at the office we give ice cubes to routinely because she is a spaz, and ice cubes are the one thing that calm her down.
That's funny.
The other thing you had on here was buying a faster car.
Yeah, so that's kind of a work in progress. If you know me or my work, you'll know that I'm a bit of a car nerd.
Yeah.
It's totally cool if you're not into cars, if you just drive your car from point A to point B to work or whatever, and you want to check out for the next 5 minutes, that's completely fine. But me, I really like cars, and so I'm, it's always a decision of saying what jobs to say yes to, what jobs to say no to as a freelancer. Some of those jobs for the meal, not the real. Well, this one is for the driveway. I live in an apartment, so I don't have a driveway, but you know what I'm saying. So yeah, I'm trying to get a Focus RS, which is the all-wheel drive, like 350 horsepower ballpark Focus. I have a Focus ST right now, and I'm like right at that point where the principal amount on the loan and the trade-in value are like super close. Yeah. So I'm like, ooh, like, I got some fun money. If I take one big job for the meal, I can cash that in and upgrade to the
for the wheel.
Version. For the wheel, yes.
Oh, there you go. That's so good.
Yes, I'm doing one for the wheel. I'm stealing that one. That's a good one, Dave.
There you go. Take it.
But yeah, no, it's just one of those little goals in life or whatever. Whatever motivates you to wake up every day and maybe put pants on as a freelancer. Whatever that is super important to keep your eye on. As the driving factor behind what we do or don't do, because every email you get, every job that comes through is an opportunity cost to it. Spending a day quoting out like a big old job or whatever, if that quote falls through and you lose that day, well shit, you lost that day. You gotta make that time up elsewhere. If you take a job, like the first thing that comes into your email box, it feels like there's always something right around the corner that also comes up, and then you have to say no to that other thing. Yeah, and it's always heartbreaking.
Always.
And so I've been in the fortunate position now to find myself being a little bit more selective with what I say yes to and what I say no to. And in certain cases, the things that I would want to say no to, I say yes to, but with a higher dollar amount attached to it. And that, is something that we're going to start up tomorrow for a couple weeks. And we'll try to cash that payday in sometime around Christmas when the net 60 hits, because god dang those net 60s. And we'll see what kind of car I'm driving around come 2020. But yeah, no, it's just, one of those things that, like I said, it's a motivator. You might be wanting to buy a house or renovate your bathroom or whatever the hell it is that this big money thing. You're like, if I had 10 grand, I would do X,
Yeah. Well, if I had 10 grand, what would I do?
I mean, it's important to think about,
I'd pay off some of my debt.
Yeah.
That's the big motivating factor for me right now, is to get as far out of debt as possible before the new kit arrives. So, and that's only a few months away.
Right. And I think it's super important to prioritize every once in a while, to reprioritize, or at least to reassess what that priority is. That question every time you get interviewed of like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Yeah. It's like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing in a month from now. Okay? Yeah. Like, I have no clue what a year from now holds, let alone 5. But you know what? Right now I've got a goal to get a bit faster of a car. And so if that means I say yes to a job that I would have wanted to say no to, that's my priority right now. And totally. It's important to recognize, it's like, having a goal that you're working towards. But in this case, it's like, it has a bit more direct financial connotation. That like, theoretical question of if I had 10 grand, what would I do with it? Yeah. So I always like to have that, seed planted in the back of my head, so that way I can, jump on an opportunity if it presents
itself. I'd pay off 1/10 of my student loans.
1/100000th of my student loans. Yep. Yeah. I want to try and I want to hit this question in the chat really quick.
I gotta get out.
And soon. Then we'll go to links, because if Matt has to bolt, that we can just finish out the links. When he takes off. Digital Castaway says, outside of word of mouth, what are some of the resources you look at when finding new jobs as a freelancer?
Honestly, my biggest thing is Slack channels.
Yeah, I completely agree.
The jobs channel in the Mograph.com Slack, link in wherever on Mograph.com/Slack to sign up. So there's a jobs channel in your guys' Slack, in MDA, also on Twitter. Every once in a while, Twitter and all these other different sources of social media can be annoying to keep tabs on, but like, there's been times when I've seen, some company or whatever, like, blast a thing out like, hey, we're looking for so-and-so, like, send us your things. And I've responded to them, or I've copied that link off, and, if it's a 2D thing, I'll send it to Boxfort's chat, and one of the 2D people will jump on it,
Serenade Studio says, I've been using Twine. I haven't heard of Twine, but I'm looking it up right now. Interesting.
It's also working, not working, I think, is one. But I think you have to be like vetted for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there's there's other job boards. Obviously, there's like the stuff that doesn't apply directly to Mograph, like Monster.com and Craigslist classifieds Indeed. Or whatever, which...
Monster never got me a job ever in my entire life.
Yeah, just got me a bunch of spam.
Yeah, I definitely don't, co-sign those things. But there's I think School of Motion has a job board. Motionographer had a job board. Maybe they still do. But yeah, like job channels on Slack's workspaces are I would say the number one place to keep your eye out on nowadays.
Thumbtack is good for a lot of print stuff. I think there are some motion graphics things on there. You really have to kind of be selective and kind of filter through the mess and give it a good go. Sometimes you got to invest $20 worth of credits or whatever and really to make it work. It could it could be useful for some people.
LinkedIn as well. I think there's a pro
LinkedIn,
version.
Really?
I think there's a pro version of LinkedIn which allows you to either filter searches or appear in searches. Like, because LinkedIn, whether we like it or not, a lot of like HR or like studio type people still rely on it. And they will just type in like motion graphics artists in, Washington, D.C. or like wherever they're based, and like just see what comes up. And I think the pro version of LinkedIn allows you to either appear or to filter through those search results in a more meaningful way. So I would give that a look.
Interesting.
If LinkedIn is something that you keep up with, I personally don't, but it's another tool in the arsenal.
Well, somebody hit us up from LinkedIn the other day. I guess we were recommended by someone in LinkedIn, and I was like, it sounds like it's really not going to pan out to be anything, because I don't think they have that they have the budget for a rate or anything. But I mean, sometimes those are hit or miss. You never know what something's going to turn into there. If you do a smaller job, something like that. Chad Ashley says hi to us. Hi, Chad.
Hi, Chad.
Hi. And then Digital Castaway also says, when will the next time be that we open mograph.com Slack for open enrollment?
Never. Too many people already.
No, we will do it at one point. I'm thinking December, but if you want to email us, just hit us up and we'll send you something. Okay, Matt,
Never.
You only got 15 minutes left. I want to barrel through some links real quick because I don't want to miss
I may
these
have
links.
less than 15. I have to. I literally have to be out the door at 2:15.
The links that I've got are all super dumb and super fast. So
okay, cool.
We can blow through these. These are in no way, shape, or form meant to be long deep dives. So there are 2 accounts on Twitter that I want to recommend. Again, these are very dumb and very surface level, but there's one Twitter account called Can You Pet the Dog? And it goes through and reviews video games based on if you can interact with the dogs that are in the games. So like,
nice.
If you're playing Legend of Zelda or whatever and you walk up to the dog, if you can pet the dog, they review the game favorably.
It has 350,000 followers. Oh my gosh! I'm not living my best life.
Yeah. So Can You Pet the Dog is a good one. And that's super family friendly, and everybody loves that. That's a super good time. There's another one, and this is a little bit more of a niche that I like. So apologies for that, but it's cropped car memes. So like memes on the internet, sometimes there might be a little bit of not safe for work text here, so I want to be a little careful if we pull this up. But it's basically like image macros where you have text at the top and the bottom, but they just crop one side out. So they're just like stupid and absurd. None of them make any sense.
I've seen this in other things before. Like someone did this with like a super pro Trump Twitter account where they just cut off half of it.
So
there's cropped boomer memes as well, which is the same.
That's probably
flavor.
the one. Yeah.
So they cut off either the top or the bottom text.
Right. So you only get half the meme, but that's
really funny.
That's the fun.
Right.
And it's like I said, it's absurd. It's dumb. This will serve no other real purpose other than to just integrate a little bit more noise into your morning when you're scrolling through your feed.
Right.
When Trump decides, and that's it.
They're dumb. The next one is, there's 2 subreddits. So the first one is r/that's-a-booklight. And so this is an image-based subreddit where they will like find props in the background of movies that are like a real thing. So if you pull up that subreddit and the first image is like a meme from like Star Wars Episode 1, and it's like someone's dog toy that they just like spray painted silver, but it's like a background prop that's supposed to be like a greeble kind of like detail thing.
Oh,
gotcha.
yes.
That's funny.
My first time I ever noticed anything like this was on an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation. They were sitting in 10 forward, and there was a little pyramid thing with LEDs on it, sitting in the middle of the table, and it was a game that I had bought, where it was a little puzzle game. And I'm like, why is that puzzle game in Star Trek: The Next Generation? That's funny.
So that's a good one. Again, that is r/, I'll spell it, THATSABOOKLIGHT. So that's a booklight. The next subreddit is, this one is maybe a little bit more artistic, but it's kind of spooky. It is called I'm Sorry, John.
I love I'm Sorry, John.
Oh, yeah.
And so this is
John is Jon, right?
Yeah, so it's I'm Sorry, Jon, as in the character, the human character from Garfield. And so the images on the subreddit are all like fan art drawings of like these grotesque, like kind of Lovecraftian, just like very disturbing renditions of Garfield. So again, super weird. And there's like an underlying narrative if you want to follow these enough. But they're all like, you know, they usually wind up resulting in Garfield like possessing John in some, you know, terrible way. But if you're into kind of like dark arts or whatever, it's kind of an interesting one.
And I think a lot of people are like hoping that they're hoping somehow they will persuade him to end the Garfield series when he retires with something off the wall like that.
Yeah, I think that's that might be the core of what, like where this joke started, and then it just kind of snowballed from there. And then the last one is a YouTube channel on the family friendly side, but it's a bit educational. It's called Real Life Lore, and so Real Life Lore tackles a whole bunch of stuff. Just like kind of like either geography or like educational stuff from history or whatever. And so like their latest video of why Japan's geography sucks is a pretty interesting like deep dive into like how mountainous Japan is and like the like ways that as a country they've overcame or like the challenges that they face, like expanding, and like there goes about some history of like what wars they got into over like resources because of like, well, this is what their geography can or can't support kind of thing. So there's some interesting little history lessons in there, covering a wide range of stuff like seagull attacks when they hit like a bird, or when a bird hits a plane engine, like, you know, like how that kind of cascades into like a bigger and bigger problem, like on a global scale, or like, you know, I don't know, nuclear weapons, or the fact that there's a bunch of dead bodies on Mount Everest.
Oh, like, I know about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just like these weird like little, you know, internet stories turned video essay, because everyone loves a good old video essay on YouTube.
Of course.
So yeah, those are my links. Does anyone else have any links?
I have a few real quick. I'm going to put links. I'll put all these links in the show notes, of course, as well as these that I have. I have 3 different links about air purifiers, because I did a lot of research on air purifiers because I was really looking at Molecule and trying to figure out, is it worth the money and all of that stuff. And I found out that there is a like more of a $100 range one or $150 range one that is super cheap, but I found these links to this dude who did this incredible amount of research and scientific testing to figure out that the cheap one is actually just as good as the Molecule, and I got it, and it's great. So I'll put all the links in there. Also, the link to, I think most people know about this, but NASA did the 3D map of the moon for CG artists. Make sure you check that out, play with that or whatever. There's an article to Camp Mograph about Camp Mograph that somebody wrote, and that's a local paper. Like, it was really fun. Like physical copy, you know, it's online, of course, but there's a physical copy of it too, which is super fun. And then I wanted to also link to the tutorial that David Aryev just posted on the furry mouse scene that he was doing Chelsea Bumble Mouse it's on iDesign. So that's all I got.
Oh, it's on iDesign already?
Sweet. Yeah, I think part 1 is I think it's close to an hour long, so right on brand for David's tutorials.
Right. Absolutely.
It's a good deep dive into look dev using some Octane like hair and fur kind of stuff, and all his good, nice lighting, strong backlight, strong key light,
of course,
all that fun stuff.
But that's all I have. I mean, I know you only have like 5 minutes, Matt. So I'm
right,
gonna
Digital Castaway. You've been officially invited.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Now I've got some good people, but since we have to go, I'm gonna move those, copy and paste them to next week's notes.
I think that's a good choice.
And then I need to get all the details ready for this, but we are having the mega show next week.
Is that next week?
That's next Monday.
That's right, the 28th.
Yep.
Wow, okay.
Yep. I need to get on that. That's going to be Joey Kornman and Chris Doe and then Ryan Summers. And man, I got a lot of work to do this week. I got to get on that.
It's going to be an all gloves off.
Here, you know what?
Yeah.
Nah, never mind. I'm not going to talk about it. This is more for the Rants channel.
I don't have a template set up for that many people yet, so I'm going to have to build that this week. I think Matt and I are going to take more of a moderator role, so you might like have the three of them and then us like kind of smaller, like in the corners or something. I got to figure out how we fit everybody in one picture. It's going to be good. So a thing I would say is make sure you send, if you have questions for them, please send them in, because I've got to do a whole thing of topics so we can kind of structure this. It's gonna need to be structured. You know what I mean?
Let's try to get a running thread going in the podcast channel. On the Slack. If there are any other Slack people, let's try to get like something, because there's a lot of potential good that can come out of this discussion if we nurture it. And by we, I mean absolutely. Like you guys in the community, like, the little Slack world getting, like the railroad tracks laid out ahead of this beast and try to keep it in some sort of coherent direction.
Yeah.
Right. And I've got to line more people up too, because I don't even know. Like Haley's going to be on, I think, the week after that. And the only other person that I have even lined up after that is Nydia Diaz from, where is she from?
From Portugal. That's right.
Oh, from Portugal. But didn't she present? Okay, maybe that's why I thought.
She is presenting at NodeFest. But she
That's
is one
why I thought
of
she was,
the few people who is not
isn't
Australian
from there
that they are bringing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Because her work is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah. So, I should probably get on that. I've been gone for too long. Got to line up some more guests. So,
yeah.
Okay, we're going to take off because Matt's got to go do his things. Billy.
I get to see my baby today.
Oh, I totally just forgot. The polygons from the car that I modeled are on a T-shirt now.
Nice.
Oh, that's sweet.
So I don't need Hoonigan doesn't need me to plug anything because they sell millions of T-shirts a year. But if you want to see if you want to see the wireframe in close detail of the car that I helped make earlier this year with Ash, you can go on and buy the T-shirt.
Hope you're getting kickbacks from that.
I am not. But yeah, that's cool. Anyway, I'm done.
Cool, man. Really appreciate you being on. We always tell everybody just about every week, it seems, that we wish we had more time when we're already at the 2 hour and something mark.
Yep.
We could just keep going and going. So I have a feeling next week's going to be like that too.
Yeah.
So
clear your calendars, boys and girls.
Yeah. Yep. Make sure you check out the mega show. We are going to get out of here. You can rate us on iTunes, leave a review, subscribe. Helps get our ratings up. If you subscribe on your podcatcher of choice, you could subscribe to the newsletter. There's another thing I got to do is a newsletter.
Yeah.
You could say you've been there, done that, got the T-shirt with the Mograph logo tee, the Paul Babb Feel the Bab 2020 shirt, all the profits from that. Go to Doctors Without Borders, the Render Things T-shirt, hoodie, and long sleeve tee. It's wintertime. Make sure you get those. And then That Render is Fire shirt, which you can only wear ironically.
Is that the new thing? Is that what you're going to say after every time?
Probably.
All right.
I got to make sure you're wearing it ironically. If I see you wearing it non-ironically, then I'm taking it back.
I have seen you wear that shirt so many times. I guarantee. I feel like yeah. All right. Let's get out of here.
Okay. All right. Of course, Billy, if people want to find you.
Yeah. My website, gernge.com. So that's spelled Gernge. That's my Instagram handle. My Twitter handle, I think I have an underscore somewhere, unfortunately.
That's I think on Twitter is your underscore.
If you Google me or my name, pretty much I'm the only one who comes up. So good SEO.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to get out of here. Oh, and I forgot to say we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Periscope, YouTube, and Mograph.com.
What about TikTok?
There.
Not yet.
Nope.
About what? TikTok? No, not yet. Maybe someday. We'll probably ditch. We ditch Twitch. We might ditch Periscope, and maybe we'll add TikTok. We'll see.
I was 100%
Digital
joking,
Castaway watches on Twitch.
Yeah, maybe some. Yeah, sorry, Digital Castaway. You're gonna have to go to YouTube. You could, maybe we could do like some 6-second tutorials on TikTok. That would be funny.
That would actually be kind of sweet.
Yeah,
TikTok Mograph tutorials,
and then do this, and then you have to have someone like Chris Schmidt doing that.
Oh yeah, because he'll do a 30-second tutorial in 6 seconds.
Exactly.
If you challenge him.
Cool. All right. Well, we're gonna get out of here. Until next week. I'm Dave.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Billy.
Have a good one.
Later, yo.
Bye.
It's pretty good, I guess. Mograph.com, an online resource for motion graphic artists. Start your week with the Mograph podcast. Industry news, interviews with your favorite artists, and terrible humor. Watch live shows and interviews from Mograph events like NAB, SIGGRAPH, Half-Res, and local meetups. Our Mograph Talks feature live demos and motivation from artists all around the world.
Sometimes you gotta make stuff that you're not gonna put on your reel, and I'm not here to judge.
What if Rick and Morty show up for the countdown at midnight? That's where I peaked in life, in my career.
We gotta stop this thing, Rick! It's gonna kill us all!
Hear from the people that create your software, design your render engines, and artists that are changing the face of modern motion graphics.
You get that render done. Yeah, you better frame what?
Mograph tutorials and online classes will teach you about Cinema 4D, After Effects, as well as other popular software and render engines.
Throw in the HDR Studio, take the render settings, pick the HDR, put in a reflection, and gorgeous.
Branch into new software. Learn time-saving tips, techniques, workflows, and lessons that'll keep you up to date in the world of motion design.
Oh, brother, those are some of my favorite elves.
I love projects that scare me. When our art director comes to us and asks for something that I had never done before, man, it gets me pumped.
Join the conversation in our live sessions. Check out our plugins, or join the hundreds of daily active users in our Slack channel for technical help, advice, contests, or just to joke around. Real nice banana.
Yeah, that's so funny. All right. I'm going to live forever.
Subscribe today and get the latest updates on our YouTube and other social media channels.
Take all your dreams and just do it!
We don't care how you get here, folks. Just get here. Subscribe to Mograph.com.